Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever wondered how someone takes a simple question like, does this new teaching method actually work, and turns it into a real, solid discovery? Well, it's not some kind of magic trick. It's all about having a plan. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on that plan. We're going to dive into the world of research design. We're swimming in information these days, right? So this question, it's more important than ever. How do we know what to believe? Well, the answer is having a solid, carefully built strategy to guide us. And that, right there, is the entire reason research design exists. It's how we find answers we can actually trust. So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll get right to the heart of it. What is a research design? Then, we'll look at the 4 things that make a research plan really, really good. After that, we'll explore the 2 big ways of thinking, using numbers versus telling stories. We'll also zero in on experiments, the best tool for figuring out cause and effect. And we'll finish up with a quick tour of some other popular designs. Let's get into it. All right, so let's start with the big idea. The best way to think about a research design, it's like an architect's blueprint for an entire study. It's the master plan that shows how all the pieces are going to fit together. That phrase, conceptual framework, is everything. See, a research design isn't just a simple to-do list. No, it's the whole strategy. It's the thinking that connects all the dots, telling you exactly what information you need, how you're going to get it, and, super importantly, how you're going to make sense of it once you have it. It's what makes the whole project logical. And there's a really clear logical flow to building this plan. It all starts with the biggest question of all. What are you trying to find out? Your answer to that one question pretty much dictates everything else. From there, you figure out who you're going to study, how you're going to collect your data, and finally, what you'll do with that data. See? Each step just flows right into the next, creating this solid path from question to answer. Okay, so we know we need a plan, but let's be real. Not all plans are created equal. For research design to give you results you can actually rely on, it needs to have 4 key ingredients. Let's break them down. First up is neutrality. This is huge. It means the results have to be based on the actual evidence, not on what the researcher was hoping to find. The data has to speak for itself, totally free from any personal opinions or bias. Next, you need reliability. Think about it like a scale you use to weigh yourself. If you step on it this morning and then again a minute later, you expect it to show the same number, right? That's reliability. A reliable study is just like that. If you do it again under the same conditions, you should get the same, consistent results. And then there's validity, which is a little different. Validity asks a really important question. Are you measuring what you actually intend to measure? That scale might be reliable. It gives you the same number every time, but if it's off by 5 pounds, it's not valid. So in research, this means you have to be using the right tools for the job. And last but not least, generalization. This is all about how far your findings can reach. Usually, the goal isn't just to learn something about the 50 people in your study. The real goal is to see if what you learned about them can apply to the 5 million people they represent. A good design lets you make that leap with some confidence. So when you're starting out, one of the first big choices you have to make is about the language you're going to speak. Are you going to speak the language of numbers and statistics, or the language of stories and experiences? This is the fundamental split between quantitative and qualitative research. This table lays it out perfectly. On the right, you've got quantitative research. This is all about measurement, numbers, stats. It answers questions like how many or how often. But on the left, you have qualitative research. This is all about depth, meaning, context. It uses things like interviews and observations to get at the why behind the numbers. And it's so important to get this. One is not better than the other. They're just different tools for different jobs. But what if your question is about cause and effect? What if you absolutely need to know if one thing causes another thing to happen? For that kind of question, you need a very specific, very powerful tool. The experiment. Yep, this is the gold standard for figuring out causality. In an experiment, the researcher doesn't just sit back and watch. No, they actively do something. They change one thing, the independent variable, to see if that change creates an effect in another thing, the dependent variable. It's really the only way to say with confidence, this caused that. Now, even within experiments, there's another choice to make. You can run a between-group design, where you have, say, one group get a new medication and a different group get a placebo. Then you compare the results between those 2 groups. Or you could do a within-group design. Here, the same group of people takes a test, then gets some kind of training, and then takes the test again. You're comparing each person's score to their own previous score. Experiments are amazing, for sure, but you can't always run one. Sometimes it's just not possible or ethical. But don't worry, researchers have a whole toolkit full of other designs for all kinds of questions. Let's do a quick tour of a few of them. A really common one is correlational research. This is where you measure two things to see if they're related. For instance, you might find that as ice cream sales go up, so do crime rates. They're correlated, but that doesn't mean eating ice cream causes crime. It just means both tend to happen when it's hot outside. This is so important. Correlation does not equal causation. Say it with me. Then you have the case study. This is like a detective doing a super deep dive on a single case. You focus intensely on one person, one company, or one event to get an incredibly rich, detailed understanding. You can't really generalize the findings, but it's an amazing way to generate new theories and ideas. I'm pretty sure we've all been a part of survey research. It's a classic for a reason. It's a super efficient way to collect information on what a large group of people thinks, feels, or does. From product feedback forms to huge political polls, the goal is to get a quick snapshot of a population. And finally, we've got the field study. This is where the researcher leaves the lab behind and goes out into the real world. This could be an anthropologist living in a remote village or a sociologist observing interactions in an office. The whole point is to see how things happen naturally, without any interference. So, at the end of the day, it really all comes down to this simple idea. A research design is what elevates a simple curiosity into a real, credible investigation. A great question is a fantastic start, but it's the great plan that actually gets you a trustworthy answer. And that leaves me with one final question for you. Now that you know the basics of how these blueprints are made, what are you curious about? If you could investigate anything in the world, what question would you design a study to answer? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.